everyone, welcome to Reading with Reference. My name's Katherine. I'm a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library, and today I'm going to tell you about two of the most recent books I've read and really enjoyed. Now that our catalog is back up and working, you can place requests on books even if they're not available on our shelf right now. We can even bring things in from other libraries, so if either of these appeal to you or any book that you want, you can put a request on it through the catalog or through our website, which is haverfordlibrary.org. So, the first book I want to tell you about today is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I am not usually a big fan of, or a big reader of sci-fi or fantasy, not because I don't enjoy it, but because I find it kind of intimidating. I'd heard really good things about N.K. Jemisin's other series, the Broken Earth trilogy, and this is the first book of a new trilogy set in modern-day New York, so it seemed like a good entry point into the world of science fiction. I put the audiobook on hold on Libya at some point, and the waitlist was long enough that I kind of forget why. But I needed something to listen to when it came as available, so I figured I'd give it a shot, and I am so glad that I did that. It might be more grounded than her other series, which seemed to put more focus on creating a fantasy world, but this is still very much a fantasy itself. The world itself is recognizable, but what happens to the people living in it is a little wild. So the premise is this. Every great city in the world is also a living, breathing organism with a soul of its own. And more than that, as each city is born, it gets an avatar, a resident of the city that represents it. But there are other universes and other cities with evil forces fighting to keep new cities from being born in this universe here. Now, New York City is about to become the newest city to be born, but just one avatar isn't enough to represent and fight for it, especially because of the huge differences between the personalities of the 5 boroughs. So now, 5 unsuspecting people find that they are becoming their boroughs. And what's more, that they'll have to fight against the danger and evil forces they don't understand to protect the city that they love. The way Jemisin gives each of these characters the traits of the boroughs they represent, is so clever and creative. I've never lived in New York City, so I'm sure I missed even more than I picked up, but what I did get was just delightful. And I think it's even more fun to discover it as the book goes along, so I won't talk about the details now. Just know that it is a real highlight of the book, and it's so enjoyable as each new detail comes out. Like I said, I listened to the audiobook version of this, which I know is not necessarily everyone's thing, but I cannot recommend it highly enough for this one. The narrator is Robin Miles, and she's incredible. She's obviously a fantastic actress separate from narration, and that really shines through here. She does incredible accents and distinct voices for each characters that aren't silly or forced, and she's obviously just as into the story as the reader is. Plus, the production is really interesting. I think it's the only audiobook I've ever listened to that has sound effects and background music, which I thought I would hate, but it really works here. I loved this book so much. It's a sci-fi adventure mixed with some really smart, insightful commentary about gentrification and race in American cities. I don't know when the second book in the trilogy will be released, especially since this one just came out in March, but it can't come soon enough. The second book I'm going to tell you about is Deacon King Kong by James McBride, and it is Oprah's most recent book club pick as well. This is another one that hooked me with the summary, but maybe more than The City We Became, it surprised me with how much more it was than just that summary. The book starts in 1969 Brooklyn in the Cause housing projects, when an elderly alcoholic church deacon known as Sportcoat walks up to Deems Clemens, the project's most fearsome drug dealer, and shoots him at point-blank range for reasons nobody can figure out. Not even Sportcoat himself really knows why he did it. The story from there is told by a big, eclectic cast of characters, most of whom were witnesses to the shooting and the chaos that follows, but some of whom who live and work in the world in and around the Cause houses. The book doesn't just trace the mystery of why Sportcoat shot Deems or the consequences of that action. There are a number of other mysteries that arise as we as readers get to know the neighborhood as well. One of my favorites was the plotline focused on a man known as the Elephant. Literally every character in this book has a cool or weird nickname. I can't think of anyone who's referred to by their real name more than once or twice. The Elephant is an Italian mobster who grew up in the Cause housing projects, now known as a pretty ruthless man. But in reality, he's quiet and lonely and wants someone to love him and doesn't really know that he wants to be in the game anymore. Reading this book was a similar experience to watching really rich, layered TV shows like The Wire, The Sopranos, or Breaking Bad. The characters are really well drawn and complex, and it's an especially interesting read in today's political climate. McBride, who drew on his own upbringing and his own childhood housing project to create the world of the novel, is quoted as saying, "We have racial problems in the 60s and 70s, but we weren't at each other's throats. It was a little different, and the police weren't militarized with all of these military weapons. With all of the discussions going on now about race and the police, it was fascinating to look at what things were like, or might have been like, in this little slice of the world that's very different from my own. I really recommend it either to listen to, which is also what I did for this one, or to read in hard copy. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully you'll enjoy these books or find something else to check out that you enjoy just as much as I did these ones. Thanks so much again. Take care.